All right, so we made like a talking about the geocodes, right? That are being introduced for the address validation, but maybe first a brief description, right? So what is geocoding? Geocoding is the process of taking the text coordinate for places like names, street address, zip codes, so basically a text-based address, and returning exchange geographic coordinates, right? This works with the latitude and the longitude pairs to identify a location on Earth surface. So basically north and south position from the equator and the east and west position from the prime meridian. So this provides great insights and a super accurate position of locations and addresses on our planet, and has several benefits, of course, for companies that are using them for referring with external system or for targeting purposes. Now, while simple address validation, as record validation already provides, can get you with the general location based on the postal service level, now with geocoordinates, you can pinpoint them to the exact location. And this is also great for integrations, right? Because you can also now mapping, but not all of them according to the current status of a record validation. But with geocoding, now you can use the GIS standard to improve your analysis and design specific segmented strategies. And as it comes with high proximity calculations, now things cannot be addressed properly with a simple street address, but now you can with the geolocation. And last but not the least, improves, of course, even more the duplicate detections, as we offer a more we often also talk about like having a standard address valid helps with the duplication. Now with geolocations, you can actually have a perfect score matching and a perfect state-of-the-art on duplicate detection. Now, record validation geocodes is available for all record validation and Plauti data management suite customers. For having like their subscription also valid for the validation, of course. And it can be enabled already into RV setup page, as you're seeing now, for just like overing into the address, into the account setups by the address section and enable the geocoding mapping. And this will cost an additional 4 credits for your address validation queries. But I guess that you can showcase something to us, Ruben, about it. I will pass it back to you.
Yes, most definitely. There were 2 questions in the chat related to the previous topic about duplicate check. One, is there a how-to guide available? Yes, it is in our knowledge base. You can visit support.plauti.com, and it's part of the knowledge base related to the DC job articles. And Saad is asking if a recording will be sent out. Yes, this is a common practice. We always share the recording with everyone that signed up for the webinar. So look out for that email. Will probably be in your mailbox by the end of tomorrow. So yeah, geocodes, exciting new feature. I'm going to showcase it to you by a component that we have called RV entry. And I'm going to use that to create a new account. And RV entry is our component, which allows you to create a new record. It's a replacement of the native entry page that Salesforce has. And in addition to the native functionality, we have built-in validation services, which you can make use of. And there are tons of benefits to be gained by using RV entry. It helps your users enter valid information much quicker. And let me show you a couple examples of that here. So beside address validation, which is below here, record validation does phone validation as well and email validation. So for example, for every phone number in your object, we can apply record validation's data quality service. So for example, when I add a mobile phone number over here, and if I move away from the field, you can see that it standardizes the phone number and it validates the phone number. As you can see, I did not add a country code, but on Blur, the country code was added thanks to record validation. And when we hover over the info icon, we get information that the phone number is correct, but we also get information about the line type, which is really interesting. And we can store this information in the database. So later on, you can run a query or a report on your database saying, give me all the mobile phone numbers, for
SMS.
example. Exactly. So for example, just as an example, if I put in a landline number and move away from the field, it will detect that this is a fixed line, where for the mobile phone number, it detects that it's a mobile phone number. So that's great information to have in your database. For emails, we are able to, let me remove the add-on. We are able to validate them. So I'm gonna put in my work email here. And when I move away from the fields, record validation will quickly see if this is a valid email. And we can not only see, for example, if syntax-wise an email is correct, so if there is an @ sign in it, if there is a domain in it, but we can actually see if the username part, so the first part of an email address, is actually registered at the email service provider Plowdy.com. So when I make a mistake or a typo in my email address, but still syntax-wise, this is considered a good email address, record validation will let us know that this will bounce, so it will not arrive. We can do this on entry like we're doing now, but we also have a batch functionality in record validation, which allows you to run these services on all existing data in Salesforce. So you can get information in your database for every single email address, see if the email address will bounce, yes or no. And that way you can make sure that your email marketing campaigns will have a bounce rate of nearly 0. There is a nice article maybe Nicola can share about this. We use record validation ourselves as well. We eat our own dog food, and our email campaigns have a delivery rate of 99.6% or something, which is in the landscape is really high. Now let's move on to the address part. So after configuring record validation, you can see that your address field sets will change a little bit because we've added a search address field at the top. So what I can do, I can start looking for an address by typing, and based on your partial query, record validation will return to you potential addresses that match your query. So right now I've only added a street name, which is Jans Buitensingel, which might be difficult to pronounce for most of you. It's actually the street where our office is located. And you can see that record validation recognizes the street in Arnhem. That's where we are based. And if I add the house number, then it will continue giving me relevant suggestions. And our office is located at 6-8. So by clicking the suggestion, record validation will autocomplete your partial query. So you can see it's adding city, province, postal code, and billing country. And it also returns to us a status about the validation level. Really cool, of course. We can do that for any address field set that you work with in your objects. And we can make this work for over 240 countries and territories worldwide. So that basically means any country or region or whatever you can think of, record validation supports. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, I can hear you thinking, where are the geocodes? So the geocodes is something that we have to configure. It's something we can turn on or off. So you can decide yourself if you want to make use of the geocode service. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to switch to the record validation application. And then I'm going to go to the RV setup. And I'm setting this up for accounts. So I'm going to open up the account object. And I'm switching to the address tab. So this is the place where we can map fields with record validation. And if a field is mapped at this point, at this place in the setup, then we will apply our validation services to that field. I have already mapped billing and shipping streets, as you can see. And when I edit the mapping, you can see a new section appears, which is called geocode mapping, which I can enable. And we will show you a prompt, which you have to confirm because we will charge an additional 4 credits per validation call. And if you agree with that, then you can go forth with mapping the actual fields. And as you can see, I already did that. So I've mapped latitude, longitude. I have mapped a status codes that we can return and a status message, which is metadata about the validation process. I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. And when I'm happy with that, I can simply save my mapping, and that's all I have to do. Now, let's go back to RV entry. We're going to create a new account again. And as you can see, at the bottom, if you look really closely, latitude and longitude are already there, but I'm going to put in an account name, Clouty. I'm going to scroll down in the page, and I'm going to look up the same address again, Jans Buiten, single 68, over there. And
that's very difficult to pronounce.
Yeah, so sorry. You can see that latitude and longitude are now part of the address field set, and they are filled in at the moment that we pick that suggestion. And when we store this information, and when we now query the database, which I can do here via the Salesforce inspector, and loop up the fields related to the billing address, then at the top you can see that current address is verified up to house number level. And related to the geocodes validation, there is a high confidence match between the location and the geocode. The location has only one geocode point match, or all returned matches are considered strong. And if we look at the JSON of the address compound field, we can see that latitude and longitude are now part of it. They are populated, and we can now use this in whatever way we want. So yeah, pretty straightforward, I guess. It's a matter of mapping, turning on the feature for the address field set that you want to activate this for. So you can decide yourself based on what address field sets you want to have this, for which you don't want to have this. So yeah, pretty straightforward.